Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion, the first panel discussion on cultural heritage and theological approaches. We are thrilled to have you here today. My name is Babis Michailidis, and I will be your moderator for this session and the speaker as well. As we stand on the crossroads of innovation and tradition, we are reminded that change is not merely a force to be reckoned with. It is an opportunity for growth and transformation. In this dynamic landscape, our heritage culture serves as a vital anchor, grounding us in our identity while guiding us through the waves of change. We have an exceptional lineup of speakers who will share their insights and expertise. Let me introduce them in the order they will be speaking. First, we have Professor John Chrysoulakis. Next, we will hear from Professor Stavros Economidis. Next, myself, Mr. Babis Michailidis. Then we will hear from Dr. Ioannis Panagiotopoulos. Next, we have Mr. Stratis Panourios. Finally, we will wrap up with the Metropolitan of Achaia, Dr. Athanasios Hadjopoulos, Church of Greece. I will provide a brief introduction for each speaker just before their presentation. Thank you, everyone. Before we dive into our presentations, I'd like to share a few operational details to ensure our session runs smoothly. Each speaker will have 15 minutes to share their insights. This will allow us to maintain an engaged pace and give each of our experts the time they need to present their ideas. After all 5 presentations, we will open the floor for Q&A session. I encourage you to think of questions throughout the talks. Please write them in the chat box, and we will have about 15 minutes for discussion at the end. To keep us on track, I will be gently reminding each speaker when they have 2 minutes remaining, so we can ensure everyone has a chance to contribute. Thank you for your attention, and let's get started. First, we have Professor John Chrysoulakis, former Secretary General for Greeks Abroad and Public Diplomacy. He has worked in many European countries and the USA, collaborating and communicating with many organizations and councils of local Greek communities. He will kick off our discussion with the topic of Greek language and cultural diplomacy, a contemporary perspective in international relations. Professor Chrysoulakis, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Επιτρέψτε μου να εκφράσω τις ευχαριστίες μου στο Athens Call Athens και προσωπικά στον κύριο Ψαθά για την πρόσκληση να συμμετάσχω σε μια τόσο ενδιαφέρουσα αλλά και επίκαιρη εκδήλωση. Γιατί ο ελληνικός πολιτισμός είναι πάντα επίκαιρος λόγω της διαχρονικότητάς του. Ο ελληνικός πολιτισμός και η γλώσσα μας, 2 κύρια συστατικά. Ο ελληνικός πολιτισμός αναμφισβήτητα είναι από τους κύριους διαμορφωτές του δυτικού κυρίαρχου στο σύγχρονο κόσμο πολιτισμού. Η ελληνική πολιτιστική κληρονομιά αποτελεί ένα οικουμενικό φως που ανατροφοδοτεί την ανθρωπότητα σε περιόδους κρίσης όπως στην εποχή μας. Το ελληνικό αξιακό σύστημα που είναι σύνθεση του κλασικού ελληνισμού και της Ορθοδοξίας, όπως είναι στην ουσία και ο τίτλος του πάνελ, σε συνδυασμό με την παράδοση, τυπώνει το μοναδικό πολιτιστικό άδας. Τόσο στην κλασική ελληνική παιδεία όσο και στην ελληνοορθόδοξη παράδοση, η γλώσσα ήταν και είναι ο εκφραστής των πανανθρώπινων αξιών. Σε όλα τα πεδία της επιστημονικής και δημόσιας σφαίρας, οι αγωγά της έχουν τη γλώσσα ως σημείο αναφοράς, ιδίως κατά την αποτύπωση των ενιών, όπως επίσης και κατά την ερμηνευτική τους. Βασικές ανθρώπινου αξιακού κώδικα εδράζονται στην ελληνική γλώσσα και εντοπίζονται παντού, στην πολιτική, στην τέχνη, στην οικονομία, στη δημόσια ζωή και στην επιστήμη. η εθνική μας, η ελληνική μας εθνική ταυτότητα συντίθεται από στοιχεία όπως ο ίδιος ο λαός μας, οι άνθρωποι, η ιστορία, η γλώσσα μας, ο πολιτισμός μας, ο τουρισμός μας, η πολιτική, οι επενδύσεις και ο αθλητισμός. Ο απανταχού ελληνισμός θα πρέπει διαχρονικά προωθεί στο εξωτερικό, σε όλο τον κόσμο, την εικόνα και τις θέσεις της χώρας μας σε θέματα πολιτισμού και πρέπει να επιμένουμε ιδίως στα συγκριτικά μας πλεονεκτήματα. Γιατί ο χώρος του πολιτισμού στην Ελλάδα πάντα πρωτοπόρα. Πιστεύουμε ότι πίστευε και ο Γκέτε για την Ελλάδα. Ότι είναι ο νους και η καρδιά για τον άνθρωπο, είναι και η Ελλάδα για την οικουμένη. Αυτό έλεγε ο Βόρχαν Γκέτε. Μας λοιπόν πάντοτε, όπως και στόχος του Αθήνα καλή Αθήνα, είναι ακριβώς η ενίσχυση της διεθνούς θέσης της χώρας μας ως κόμβου πολιτισμού. Θεωρείται παγκοσμίως λίκνο του δυτικού πολιτισμού. Ένα γεγονός που ενισχύει την αναγνωρισιμότητά της διεθνώς και αποτελεί ένα από τα βασικά της πλεονεκτήματα. Κεντρικοί άξονες για την επίτευξη του στόχου αυτού είναι η προβολή της χώρας ως και εκπαιδευτικού πολιτισμού και η ένταση των προσπαθειών για την επιμέρους πολιτιστικές προτεραιότητες, όπως είναι, και είναι πάρα πολύ επίκαιρο, η επιστροφή των γλυπτών του Παρθενώνα. Όμως πρέπει πάντοτε πολλές και παράλληλες ενέργειες της ενίσχυσης της Ελλάδας στον κόσμο. Ενίσχυση με κάθε πρόσφορο τρόπο, με δράσεις και ενέργειες που στο ελληνικό πολιτιστικό αποτύπωμα, τόσο το υλικό όσο και το άειλο. Είτε αυτό γίνεται μέσα από εκθέσεις, όπως παραδείγματος χάρη με ψηφιακή που προβάλλει το αρχιτεκτονικό θαύμα, ή με την έκθεση για τους θησαυρούς του Αγίου Όρους, η οποία είχε τεράστια επιτυχία και διευκόλυνε μάλιστα και τις γυναίκες συμπατριώτισσες, αλλά και όλους τους ενδιαφερόμενους που δεν μπορούν να πάνε για να ανακαλύψουν αυτή την ήτιμη πηγή πολιτισμού ελληνικού και της Ορθοδοξίας. Είτε αυτό μπορεί να γίνει με την προώθηση πολιτιστικών δράσεων στα θεατρικά, στα κινηματογραφικά, μουσικά, στα χορευτικά πράγματα. Και αυτό μπορεί να γίνει με την διευκόλυνση και υποστήριξη της διασύνδεσης των Ελλήνων καλλιτεχνών με πολιτιστικά δίκτυα, δίνοντας τους έτσι διεθνείς ευκαιρίες στον χώρο του πολιτισμού. Επίσης, αντίστοιχες πολιτιστικές ενέργειες ενίσχυσης της Ελλάδας στον κόσμο μπορεί να γίνονται και γίνονται με πολυάριθμες εκδηλώσεις διεθνώς. Ελληνική γλώσσα, παραδείγματος χάρη στο πλαίσιο της Παγκόσμιας ημέρας ελληνικής γλώσσας, που η οποία εορτάζεται την 9η Φεβρουαρίου, ή με την αναβάθμιση και διαφόρων φεστιβάλ με πολιτιστικό αποτύπωμα, όπως είναι το Διεθνές Φεστιβάλ Ντοκιμαντέρ του Καστελόριζου. Όμως υπάρχουν και άλλες πολιτιστικές ενέργειες ενίσχυσης της Ελλάδας, της θέσης Ελλάδας στον κόσμο. Με τη διατροφή μας, η οποία είναι ανάμεσα στις πιο γευστικές και υγιεινές παγκοσμίως και αξίζει από τους φορείς, είναι η λέσχη αρχιμαγείρων Αττικής, η προώθηση των προγραμμάτων προβολής της ελληνικής γαστρονομίας. Είτε επίσης αυτό μπορεί να γίνεται με την προώθηση προγραμμάτων ελληνικής μεσογειακής διατροφής στα μεγάλα πανεπιστήμια του κόσμου. Ο φίλος ο Στέφανος ο Κάλες, ο οποίος διδάσκει στο Χάρβαρντ αυτό ακριβώς κείμενο, την ελληνική και μεσογειακή διατροφή. Αυτό επίσης μπορεί να γίνεται με τις εβδομάδες ελληνικής κουζίνας, που είναι ένας θεσμός που έχει φέρει εξαιρετικά αποτελέσματα χρησιμότητας και προώθησης των ελληνικών προϊόντων σε όλο τον κόσμο. Επίσης, οι πολιτιστικές ενέργειες της ενίσχυσης στον κόσμο πρέπει να συμπεριλαμβάνουν πάντοτε προγράμματα πολιτιστικών δράσεων σε κάθε σημείο του κόσμου, όπου υπάρχουν Έλληνες αλλά και φιλέλληνες. Ημερίδες, συνεργασίες με εκπαιδευτές εντός και εκτός Ελλάδος. Ιδιαίτερα τα τελευταία χρόνια αξίζει προβολής και γίνεται και πρέπει να συνεχιστεί και να ενταθεί η αγγλόφωνη τριτοβάθμια εκπαίδευση στην Ελλάδα και να ενισχύονται οι πανεπιστημιακές έδρες ελληνικών σπουδών στο εξωτερικό, είτε κέντρα ελληνικών σπουδών είτε έδρες ελληνικών σπουδών, οι οποίες δεν είναι και λίγες. Θα πω τώρα μερικά πράγματα για την ελληνική γλώσσα. Η ελληνική γλώσσα μπορούμε να πούμε πως έχει διεισδύσει δυναμικά στον παγκόσμιο δημόσιο βίο, αποτελώντας την προμετωπίδα της ήπιας ισχύως μας. Αυτό το θετικό πολιτισμικό και ψυχολογικό υπόβαθρο τροφοδοτεί καθημερινά την αξία και την εικόνα του ελληνισμού και της Ελλάδας σε παγκόσμιο επίπεδο. Η αξιοποίηση του πλούτου της γλώσσας σε μια νέα προοπτική πέρα από τον οποιοδήποτε σχολαστικισμό. Τον αξιοποιούν ως πραγματικότητα δυναμική, ενσωματωμένη στην πολιτική, στις διεθνείς σχέσεις. Κατά πρώτον, η προώθηση της ελληνικής γλώσσας αφορά στην ενίσχυση της ταυτότητας του ελληνισμού ανά την οικουμένη. Της ελληνικής γλώσσας μέσα από ακαδημαϊκά προγράμματα, από Ινστιτούτα, από κέντρα μελέτης, προβάλλει στην διεθνή κοινότητα τη δυναμική του ζωντανού ελληνικού πολιτισμού, την οποιαδήποτε μουσιακή προσέγγιση. Σε έναν σύγχρονο κόσμο κρίσης των αξιών, αλλά και κρίσης των κοινωνιών, αναδύεται ολοένα και περισσότερο η οπτική του ελληνικού πολιτισμού με βασικό δομικό στοιχείο τη γλώσσα. Είναι άρρηκτα συνδεδεμένα. Η γλώσσα διατυπώνει, η γλώσσα εκφράζει, η γλώσσα ερμηνεύει και νοηματοδοτεί. Σε μια ετερόκλητη εποχή, η γλώσσα θεραπεύσει τη σύγχρονη βαβέλ της σύγχυσης. Είναι σαφές λοιπόν πως ο ελληνισμός κρατά στα χέρια του ένα θησαυρό, τη γλώσσα, ως μέσο ισχύος για την ανάδειξη του πολιτιστικού κεφαλαίου της χώρας μας, ως ένα διαβατήριο που αποκτά πρόσβαση σε κάθε σύγχρονο άνθρωπο. Ακολούθως, όμως, και η ελληνική γλώσσα συνδέει την ελληνική διασπορά στις 5 υπήρους. Η γλώσσα αποτελεί συστατικό της ταυτότητας της διασποράς σε συνδυασμό με την Ορθοδοξία. Η Ορθόδοξη παράδοση και ειδικότερα στην Ομογένεια διασώζει τον ελληνικό πολιτισμό και παράλληλα οθεί της ελληνικής γλώσσας. Γι' αυτό λοιπόν απαιτούνται διαρκώς πρωτοβουλίες διαφύλαξης και διάδοσης ελληνικής γλώσσας και του πολιτισμού μας μεταξύ της Ομογένειας, της διασποράς μας, των Ελλήνων και των Φιλελλήνων μέχρι και σήμερα, μέχρι την 4η γενιά. Γι' αυτό λοιπόν πρέπει πάντοτε να γίνονται προσπάθειες ώστε και τα παιδιά και τα εγγόνια και τα δυσέγγωνα πλέον των αποδήμων που συχνά μεγαλώνουν χωρίς να μαθαίνουν τη γλώσσα, πρέπει να γίνεται προσπάθεια να παρέχονται τα εργαλεία ώστε να μπορούν να διδάσκονται την ελληνική γλώσσα και τον ελληνικό πολιτισμό μέσα από αυτό, και γι' αυτό το 2020 είχαμε ξεκινήσει μια προσπάθεια η οποία είχε αποτελέσματα και φτιάξαμε την πλατφόρμα με χρηματοδότηση του Ιδρύματος Σταύρος Ζημιάρχος η πλατφόρμα στα ελληνικά, η οποία είναι μια πλατφόρμα εκμάθησης της γλώσσας του πολιτισμού αλλά με έναν πολύ πολύ ευχάριστο τρόπο και διευκολύνει και πολλούς φιλέλληνες που επιθυμούν να αποκτήσουν αυτές τις γνώσεις. Όμως μέσα από έναν θεσμό ο οποίος κάθε μέρα, ειδικά τον τελευταίο χρόνο, διευρύνεται, όπως είναι τα θερινά σχολεία που λαμβάνουν χώρα στην Ελλάδα και διδάσκοντας γλώσσας ή τα προγράμματα φιλοξενίας των παιδιών που έρχονται στην Ελλάδα και διδάσκουν μαθήματα ιστορίας, πολιτισμού, διαζώσης και συμμετέχουν και λειτουργούν. Η ελληνική λοιπόν δημοκρατία είναι θεματοφύλακας του μακρόνιου ελληνικού πολιτισμού. Είναι παράγοντας σταθερότητας και ειρηνικής συνύπαρξης λαών και πολιτισμών στην ευρύτερη λεκάνης Μεσογείου. Πάγια και θεμελιώδης αρχή της άσκησης πολιτικής είναι ο σεβασμός της πολιτιστικής έκφρασης όλων των λαών και η προώθηση της ειρηνικής συμβίωσή τους. Πολιτιστικής διπλωματίας η Ελλάδα αποδίδει ιδιαίτερη σημασία στον διαπολιτισμικό διάλογο. Ο διαπολιτισμικός διάλογος προωθεί το σεβασμό των δικαιωμάτων όλων των πολιτών, ιδίως στις περιοχές που κατοικούν και δραστηριοποιούνται οι ομογενείς μας. Στη δική μας γειτονιά, στην νοτιοανατολική Μεσόγειο, η επί αιώνες συμβίωσή μας με πληθυσμούς από διαφορετικό θρησκευτικό υπόβαθρο μας έχει καταστήσει ως χώρα πρωτοπόρους στον τομέα της πολιτιστικής διπλωματίας. Αν λοιπόν όχι εμείς, τότε ποιος άλλος μπορεί να μιλήσει με περισσότερα κοινότητα για αυτά τα ζητήματα? Οι υποθέσεις αυτές μας αφορούν και είναι άμεσα συνυφασμένες με τη δική μας ταυτότητα και η προστιθέμενη αξία του ρόλου της χώρας μας έγκυται στο γεγονός ότι το ενδιαφέρον μας πρέπει να είναι διαχρονικό και πρέπει να είναι γνήσιο. Γι' αυτό λοιπόν η Ελλάδα αντιμετωπίζει με αισιοδοξία την αυγή της νέας δεκαετίας και είναι αλληλέγγυα σε κάθε δράση με αλληλοσεβασμό στα παραδοσιακά πολιτιστικά και πολιτισμικά υπόβαθρα όλων των λαών. Σας ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much, Professor Christoulakis, for your insightful presentation and for setting the stage for our discussion. Next, we will hear from Professor Stavros Economidis, Adjunct Professor of Greek Archaeology and Director of the Greek-Albanian Archaeological Project and the Trinational Zone of the Prespes. His main interest in archaeology focuses on the cultural relations between the Aegean and the Balkans. His topic for today will be metamorphosis and metousiosis, transformation and transmutation of the stones of Athens. Professor Economidis, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. President, and Kalimera, Athens, Athena, Kalimera, Athena, to anyone, to everyone here, authorities and scholars, participants, colleagues, and friends. Athens, among the ancient cities of Europe, is the one with the less visible antiquities, despite her great urban longevity and her impact in the historical, political, and cultural development of the world. The plurimillennial history of Athens and Greece explain what caused this phenomenon, but the study of the material procedures leading to the transformation of classical Athens into a Hellenistic, Roman, early medieval, Ottoman, and modern Athens could have its philosophical projection. It is in both material and philosophical terms that will be analyzed the transformation of the picture of Athens after the late antiquity in this paper. Metamorphosis, metasiosis, transformatio, and transmutatio will be used often in order to perceive the almost alchemical character of the continuous change, destructive and productive at the same time, responsible for the construction and demolition of an urban reality which lasts for about 2 millennia in the Athenian history. The stones of Athens are the original architectural materials in her making, but at the same time they are symbols of fusion, dismantlement, and rebirth. In archaeology, the stones known as spolia are the recycled architectural materials that constitute the basic element for the metamorphic transmutation of edifices as common residences, temples, shrines, tombs, public and private buildings into new constructions, if not into totally different settlements located near the ancient urban network or far from it. These spolia are the talking stones, the stones keepers of memory, and the stones indicators, schemata, and landmarks of a very ancient heritage coexisting with the later stone products of Byzantine, Frankish, and Ottoman Athens. Christopher Wordsworth, in the late 30s of the 19th century, writes that in Athens he found in better conditions the ancient ruins than the modern buildings. This outstanding observation can be easily understood when we think that few only years before, a war of total destruction was taking place in the area, that of the Greek Revolution against the Ottoman lords who ruled for about 4 centuries in most part of what used to be considered as the lands of the ancient classical world. During the revolution, Athens was attacked by both the parts with a stormy bombardment when the surrounding hills and fields were burned into a cycle of unprecedented violence. The repetitive tactic of the burned land costed to Attica, and in particular way to Athens, some millions of olive trees, its flora and fauna, and consequently its natural landscape which, until that moment, survived for centuries almost untouchable. The absolute nudity of the Athenian natural landscape is fully described by Wordsworth in the chapters 22 and 26 of the first edition of his Athens and Attica, images that, through numerous photographs taken between 1845 and the end of the century, the same way with few exceptions, Ottoman Athens vanished into thin air under the heavy bombardment of the town during the alternating sieges of the Ottoman and the Greek armies. With the creation of the modern kingdom of Greece, choosing after Aegina and Nafplion Athens as its capital, a new era started with a huge transformation taking place in the urban landscaping of the new city, and in this titanic reshaping of Athens, bits and parts of its ancient building material were embodied in the walls of the brand new houses. Spolia. Second-hand architectural parts reused for centuries for the reconstruction or for the ex novo construction of houses, public or private buildings, churches, palaces, roads, and retaining walls. This material, ideal for the perpetuation of urban life, is mentioned by travelers from Hesperia, since the older times of periegetism. It is Ciriaco de Pizzicoli Lanconitano who first vastly describes spolia and their large use everywhere in 15th century Athens. Ciriaco visited twice Athens, in 1436 and in 1444. During his first visit, he took residence on the Acropolis Hill, and in the second occasion, he lived at tented houses in the lower town. In both cases, he made drawings of a plethora of classical antiquities and kept a well-informed diary, the famous Commentaria, with any kinds of notes of all he discovered in the Duchy of Athens. It is in his second visit that Ciriaco visits the Duke of Athens Nerio Acciaioli at the Propylea of the Acropolis, and he describes the residence as follows. When I went to see Nerio Acciaioli, a Florentine prince of Athens at that time, I found him on the Acropolis, the topmost citadel of the town, though what captured my interest mostly was the beautiful work which was his distinguished residence with a magnificent castle. It was made by 4 supporting columns of well-polished marble, and over it 10 marble beams in a row. After we had come into the main hall, we noticed that there were 6 large columns, 3 feet of which arranged in 2 rows out of 3, supporting a marble coffered ceiling, and 24 feet long and 3 feet wide. The elegant marble and each one walls were themselves built of polished blocks of marble, all of equal size. Entrance was by a single huge door, something majestic. Ciriaco visited the Propylea of the Athenian Acropolis as they were rearranged in the 14th century by the Florentines. As Tassos Tanoulas notices, towards the end of the 13th century, the northern wing and the area to the north of the central building were converted to a 2-storied residence of the Frankish dukes of Athens, while the central building continued to serve its original function as the entrance to the Acropolis in 1388, thus becoming Nerio I, the first Florentine Duke of Athens. 7 years later, in 1395, Niccolò de Martoni, a notary from Padua, was in Athens and visited the Acropolis. What he says about the Propylea makes it clear that the central building was still accessible to the public, and all its columns, Doric and Ionic, were standing virtually free of masonry. The comparison of Niccolò de Martoni's text with Ciriaco's description of the palace in the Propylea proves that between their visits, that is between 1395 and 1444, the Acciaioli had extended their palace into the central building of the Propylea, and the columns had been built within walls. As we follow the old and the most recent archaeological investigations in the Propylea, we realize that great part of the Florentine palazzo of the Acropolis of Athens was made with large use of spolia. The material apparently should be collected by architectural and other material lying all over the hilltop and the around area. Tanoulas observes that the Acciaioli Palace in the Propylea was the result of successive conversions of pre-existing architectural structures into functions completely different from the original ones, and subsequently it appeared absolutely incoherent from the architectural point of view. This is the function of the spolia in their diachronic use, from the time of the Herulian wall to the dawn of the modern era. This hasn't been the only case in Athens since we discover, according to numerous descriptions of European travelers until the late 19th century, spolia almost everywhere in Athens, embodied in churches and chapels, houses and walls, courtyards, public buildings, and humble farms in the outskirts of the town. The Vienna Anonymous A traveler who visited Athens in 1460 gives further important details about the use of spolia on the Acropolis, and a little later, between 1475 and 1485, it is the turn of Urbano Bolzanio from Venice to give his own report on the extended palace of the Ottoman voivode of Athens, furtherly enriched with more second-hand materials on its walls. This architecture of distraction permitted to ancient later materials to be removed from their original positions and out of their original architectural purposes, often even far away from their original loci. As a traveler Bernard Randolph mentions in 1689, in his book The Present State of the Islands in the Archipelago, entire ancient sites were spoiled from their marble blocks and moved far away in long distances in order to be sold to masons who would use them for the construction of new structures elsewhere, or to be sold as antiquities to foreign collectors. Randolph says that the ruins of the Temple of Apollo on the island of Delos are carried away by all ships who came to anchor there, so as part are in England, France, Holland, but most at Venice. Further on, Randolph, in his description of Negreponte of Euboea, mentions that the Jesuits have also a small chapel in their house. Their care is to look after the slaves when the galleys are there. Between the castle and the town is their burying place, set out with many fine pieces of marble, most of which are brought from the ruins of Athens. In Athens, the spoliation of the urban environment of the classical and the later city continued throughout the rest of the centuries, totally transforming what was the Asti of the famous ancient polis was. It would be interesting to know how many times a recycled architectural part has been used in the last 15 centuries. Being impossible to know it, we must limit our interest into the less apocalyptic discoveries, but still of great importance for the knowledge of the urban activities in and around Athens in these last 15 centuries of continuous self-spoliations. In his description of the city of Athens, Randolph mentions that the houses are better built here than in any part of the Morea, most having little courts with high walls in which are arches with marble pillars. Few houses are above 2-story high. They are also patched up with the ruins of old palaces, and in most walls are abundance of old inscriptions. James Dalloway mentions the hard words of the classical traveler George Sandys. These rich lands at this present remain waste and overgrown with bushes, receptacles of wild beasts of thieves and murderers, large territories dispeopled or thinly inhabited, goodly cities made desolate, sumptuous building became ruins, glorious temples either subverted or prostituted to impiety. To the eyes of a classical traveler, the expected classical world is dead after a long and frustrating process of destruction. To our eyes, people of the modern era, this process is natural and well expected. Collecting the knowledge preserved by the travelers in the wider Levant, we read how this process took place not only in Athens, but in every single ancient site of the Aegean. People like Mayhouse, a French traveler, describe in great detail actually all this procedure of this incredible transformation, not only in Athens, but all over the ancient Greek, the ancient Hellenic territories. Again, it is Dalloway who informs us about the destiny the ancient columns of Alexandria Troas had. From its vicinity to Constantinople, the sultans were induced to search for marble, and the largest and most sumptuous columns which adorned the superb mosques of Selim and Suleiman were transported from hence, probably not the first time of their removal. Pillars of vast diameter are said by these travelers to be lying near the beach, ready for the exportation. Balls of marbles were likewise used by Mohammed II at the siege of Constantinople, so that Hassan Pasha has not the whole responsibility of so barbarous an invasion. The never-ending need of architectural paths, the easiness in finding it everywhere, from Athens to the Aegean Islands and from Asia Minor to the wider Levante, worked on behalf of a continuous transformation which took place from the late antiquity to the modern times and into a circle of a perennial transmutation of materials, styles, and fashion. Proceeding with the case of the metropolis of the classical world, we have images of hundreds of Athens inventing the amalgama of stone materials, ancient ruins, medieval buildings, palaces of the Renaissance, Turkish sarais, Byzantine churches, Ottonian proto-neoclassical residences, neoclassical public and private structures, and even early 20th century popular houses. Hope House, Lord Byron's companion in their common discovery of Athens, is giving us various images of the ancient city arriving from central Greece through the mountain passes of Parnis. And he says, at 2:30, having been traveling very slowly for 4 hours, just as we had got to the summit of the mountain overlooking a deep glen, one of our guides called out, Affendi, Affendi, to Horio, Sir, Sir, the town. This word, Horio, we had so often heard applied to the villages on our route that we were not a little surprised upon looking up to see in a plain at a great distance before us a large town rising round on eminence, on which we could also discern some buildings, and beyond this town the sea. This was our first view of Athens. On a rugged rock we saw rising abruptly on our right the remains of ancient walls composed of many stones and accompanying the summit of the hill. Some more than 2 hours from Hassia, we entered the olive groves, and crossing a bridge over a river, the Attic Kiphisos, traversed them obliquely for an hour, when we came again into the open plain. In 1 hour more, traveling on the same fine road, we arrived on the city walls and passed under one of the arched gateways into the open space before the town. A few minutes brought us into Athens at 8:30 in the evening of Christmas Day 1809. The small Ionic temple, standing 40 years ago on the other side of the Lycus, Hope House says, at a short distance further up to the east, and determined by travelers to be the Elefsinion, where the lesser mysteries were performed, has now disappeared, but a shaft of 2 or 3 columns is seen, wedged into the wall of a little Greek church near the spot, which may belong either to the temple of Ceres, Dimitra, or to that of Diana, Agrea, and also on nearly the same position. No other antiquities occurs without the modern city always following what Hope House describes, except the shaft and capital of one column of the Corinthian order, just at the outside of the suburbs to the northwest.
Please, Professor, make it closer. Out of time.
Yes, thank you. Just at the outside of the suburbs to the northwest, between the gate looking towards Thebes and at near the temple of Theseus, whether this column may not be the only remaining vestige of the ruin, considered part of the Prytaneum and having in 1738 10 columns yet standing, and a marble wall cannot at all decide. The Sieur de Chaise first to travel to Athens and who saw the Temple of Victory on the Acropolis of Athens, almost perfect in 1625, Nointel Gallant in 1671, Lord Winchelsea in 1676, and Vernon, all of whose visited Athens previous to the siege of the city by Morosini, saw the Acropolis less changed, perhaps from its ancient state, that it has been from the condition in which it then stood. I'm concluding now saying it would be as well to remark that there are many detached pieces of carved stone and marble inserted in the walls and over the doorways of the modern houses, which arrest the attention of anyone who walks the streets. Travelers from this area are our own eyes. Through centuries of poor local written history, descriptions of foreigners give us the key to visualize lost moments of transformation into the continuous process of destruction and reconstruction. This is the story of the entire universe and of a notorious urban center which progressively disappeared, destroyed and vanished, but also remade and embodied into the later urban realities. Studying this progressive destruction of Athens, we realize that real destruction of buildings took place everywhere here in and outside Athens during conflicts, great and minor invasions, natural havocs, religious and political turmoil, and national uprisings. We realize, though, those sorts of peaceful changes taking place in different epochs. Aside from any process of dismantlement, demolition, and proper destruction, the invisible traces of Athens of the many pasts are waiting to be revealed, recognized, and reconsidered in their deconstructed totality. Thank you so much for your patience and attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Economidis, for sharing your valuable perspectives and deepening our understanding of the topic. Now, myself. Next, I have to introduce myself, of course. Mr. Babis Michailidis, a production management engineer with more than 40 years of working in senior management positions in large industrial organizations. I also teach leadership and strategic change courses for 30 years now, helping develop future executives. My topic for today will be poetic intelligence, mastering innovative thinking in the digital age. Let me share my screen with you. Okay. My topic, as I told you, is going to be a poetic intelligence, and the subtitle is Mastering Innovative Thinking in the Digital Age, in the age of AI, artificial intelligence. The impact, let's first consider the impact of the digital age on innovative thinking. Today, we stand at the crossroads of an unprecedented era, an era defined not only by the rapid evolution of technology, but also by its profound impact on our collective imagination and creative thinking. The digital age, coupled with the rise of artificial intelligence, is transforming the very fabric of how we conceive, develop, and implement innovative ideas. As we delve into this digital landscape, we find ourselves equipped with tools that were once the stuff of science fiction. From advanced algorithms that analyzed vast datasets in seconds to machine learning systems that can predict trends and outcomes, our capabilities at our fingertips are reshaping our creative processes. No longer are we limited by the constraints of our physical environments. Instead, we can collaborate across continents, share insights in real time, and harness collective intelligence like never before. However, this transformation is not without its challenges. Integrating AI into our innovation processes raises critical questions about creativity. Are we merely augmenting our human capabilities, or are we beginning to cede our creative authority to machines? This is a vital discussion we must engage in, as it forces us to redefine what it means to be innovative in a world where algorithms can generate ideas, solve problems, and even create art. Moreover, the digital age has democratized access to information and resources, empowering individuals from diverse backgrounds to contribute to innovation. This inclusivity fosters a rich tapestry of perspectives, encouraging us to think outside the box and challenge conventional wisdom. The cross-pollination of ideas across disciplines has never been more accessible, fueling breakthroughs that can address some of the most pressing challenges of our time. As we embrace these advancements, let us also remember the importance of the human touch in our innovation journey. Technology should catalyze our creativity, not replace it. The most transformative innovations arise from the intersection of human intuition, empathy, and machine intelligence. Now let's consider the role of poetry in developing innovative thinking. In such a landscape, the role of poetry in nurturing innovative thinking skills is increasingly significant. Poetry, often seen as an art form that captures emotions and experiences, also serves as a powerful tool for cognitive development and creativity. As we navigate a world increasingly influenced by artificial intelligence, the skills cultivated through poetry can foster a unique approach to problem solving and innovation. First and foremost, poetry encourages divergent thinking, a cornerstone of creativity that involves generating multiple solutions to a given problem. Unlike the linear, structured, nature of conventional thought processes often emphasized in artificial intelligence and STEM fields, poetry invites a free flow of ideas. The use of metaphor, imagery, and rhythm allows poets to explore concepts in multifaceted ways, prompting readers and writers alike to think outside the box. This ability to see connections between seemingly unrelated ideas can lead to innovative breakthroughs, a skill crucial in an era where interdisciplinary approaches are increasingly valued. Moreover, poetry cultivates emotional intelligence, another vital component of innovative thinking. In a time when AI systems can analyze data and perform tasks with remarkable efficiency, the human capacity for empathy and emotional understanding remains irreplaceable. Poetry, through its exploration of human experiences, emotions, and perspectives, enhances our ability to connect with others. This emotional depth fosters a collaborative spirit, essential for innovation, as diverse teams that understand and appreciate different viewpoints are more likely to generate groundbreaking ideas. The ability to articulate and communicate nuanced feelings through poetry can also enhance interpersonal skills, further enriching collaborative efforts. Additionally, the structure and form of poetry encourage experimentation and risk-taking. Poets often play with language, breaking traditional grammatical rules and inventing new forms to convey their ideas. This willingness to experiment resonates with the innovative spirit required in the AI age, where traditional solutions may not suffice. Embracing ambiguity and uncertainty, qualities inherent in poetry, can empower individuals to explore unconventional paths and be open to failure as a step towards success. In a world increasingly driven by data and algorithms, this willingness to take risks can lead to novel approaches and unexpected solutions. Furthermore, poetry can stimulate critical thinking skills. Analyzing poetry requires readers to engage deeply with texts, deciphering layers of meaning and understanding context. This analytical process mirrors the critical thinking needed to navigate complex problems in technology and science. As individuals learn to interpret and critique poetry, they develop the ability to assess information critically, an essential skill in an age where misinformation can proliferate rapidly. Finally, poetry serves as a bridge between technology and humanity. As AI continues to advance, there is a growing need to remind ourselves of the human experience, which poetry encapsulates beautifully. By integrating poetic thinking into technological development, we can ensure that innovation is not only efficient, but also ethical and empathetic. This balance is crucial in creating AI systems that serve humanity rather than diminish it. In conclusion, by fostering poetic intelligence, i.e., divergent thinking, emotional intelligence, experimentation, critical analysis, and a human-centered approach, we equip every individual, should it be student, professional, executive, manager, or leader in any field, with the tools necessary to thrive in a complex, technology-driven world. As we look to the future, embracing the lessons of poetry may be one of the most effective ways to ensure that innovation remains rooted in the richness of human experience. Now we're going to see a revolution is happening in business leadership training, actually a poetic revolution. In an era marked by rapid technological advancements and shifting cultural landscapes, the business world is witnessing a remarkable transformation, often referred to as the poetic revolution. This movement is characterized by a new wave of leadership that embraces creativity, emotional intelligence, and authenticity. As traditional corporate hierarchies give way to more fluid and inclusive structures, leaders are increasingly turning to poetic principles to inspire, connect, and cultivate vibrant organizational cultures. At its core, the poetic revolution in business leadership is about reimagining the role of leaders as visionaries and storytellers, rather than mere managers of resources. This shift is informed by the understanding that in today's interconnected world, employees are seeking meaning and purpose in their work. Leaders who embrace poetic principles focus on crafting a narrative that resonates with their teams, fostering a sense of belonging and shared vision. This narrative-driven approach encourages leaders to engage with their team's emotional and psychological dimensions, acknowledging that people are not just cogs in a machine, but individuals with aspirations, fears, and dreams. A key component of this revolution is the emphasis on creativity. Just as poets use language to evoke emotions and provoke thought, business leaders are now encouraged to think outside conventional frameworks. They are increasingly valuing innovative problem-solving and diverse perspectives, recognizing that the most groundbreaking ideas often emerge from collaboration and open dialogue. This creative ethos encourages employees to express themselves freely, leading to a culture of experimentation and agility that is essential in navigating the complexities of the modern marketplace. Moreover, poetic leadership encourages resilience in the face of challenges. In a world where change is the only constant, leaders who can weave a compelling narrative around adversity help their teams navigate uncertainty with confidence. By framing challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, these leaders instill a sense of hope and determination, which is crucial for sustaining motivation during turbulent times. Furthermore, leaders who embody poetic principles inspire their teams to think critically and challenge the status quo. This spirit of inquiry and exploration is essential for organizations aiming to stay ahead in a never-evolving marketplace. By valuing diverse perspectives and encouraging curiosity, leaders can create a fertile ground for innovation, ensuring that their organizations remain adaptive and responsive to emerging trends. As businesses continue to navigate the complexities of the modern world, this poetic approach will be essential for building strong, adaptable, and purpose-driven organizations. The leaders who succeed in this new landscape will be those who recognize the power of narrative, embrace the art of connection, and inspire their teams to dream and create boldly. In doing so, they will not only transform their organizations, but also contribute to a more human-centric approach to business that resonates with the hearts and minds of all stakeholders. Now we will see some examples of these poetic revolutions. First of all, we see Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who uses poetry, collaboration, empathy, and listening to run a $2 trillion empire like Microsoft. Second, the World Economic Forum tried to tell us that if we want to unlock great leadership skills, leadership is Shakespeare is the key, poetry is the key. And furthermore, the University of Oxford, especially in the MBA course, the Side Business School, it teaches evolutionary leadership through leadership lessons from Hamlet, from Shakespeare. Okay. In this mentality, we produced and we established this blog, which is called Poetic Intelligence for Leaders blog, where we started this blog to highlight how poetic intelligence, metaphorical thinking, and symbolism can foster innovative thinking in every profession. We will see an example. We have many programs and workshops. I'm going to show you a sample program concerning transformational leadership training course. Insights from Cavafis' poem, God Abandons Antony. Konstantinos Cavafis' God Abandons Antony refers to the great value of maintaining dignity in the face of change and loss. Cavafis presents Antony at the moment when he hears the invisible troop moving away from the city and realizes that his patron god is abandoning him. Antony has been a brave soldier and has succeeded in conquering many lands, which indicates that he must now face the loss of all his possessions in the similarly brave manner. Cavafis' poem, of course, even though it refers to Antony, actually has a much wider application and is essentially addressed to every human being. Antony, in other words, symbolizes every person who, having fought in his life to achieve his goals and dreams, at some point comes to face to face with the loss of all of them. That's when, according to the poet, he should show all his mental strength, facing the loss with dignity and without crying and pleading. The man who respects himself fights for his desires, but is always ready to face the possibility of losing what he has acquired. Even though we feel the intensity of pain, we should not bend in front of the disaster. We must learn to manage loss as a node of transformation. This is an incredible lesson in leadership that each of us should consider with the utmost care and attention. This course has the potential to truly transform the way we all approach leadership roles and responsibilities. The wisdom within this lesson could profoundly affect the way we motivate and inspire those around us. I encourage you all to think deeply about this powerful message and try to incorporate its principles into your leadership approach. Poetry can seem like an unexpected inspiration for innovation, but unleashing creativity these days requires us to seek new perspectives from unconventional places. We hope you join us to discover this, your inner poet, and unleash your innovative potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Michailidis. Thank you very much.
Mr. Michailidis,
Excellent job. Allow me to, for the intervention, just to say that the next speaker, Professor Panagiotopoulos, is on teach duties. So we are going to broadcast the video with his speech, and after the end of the video, he will be with us lively. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the conference for the invitation to participate in it for one more year. It's a very important initiative which I will come and try to support with my limited powers. The topic I was called to negotiate is entitled Creation and the Creator, the Experience of Faith. In Christian thought, creation and faith are deeply intertwined. Faith serves as the lens through which believers come to comprehend the world around them as a reflection of God's divine purpose. The act of creation itself is not merely a historical or physical event, but an ongoing manifestation of God's will, revealing His nature, power, and love. For Christians, the mystery of creation is understood through the faith that allows them to see beyond the material world and perceive the spiritual realities that lie behind it. And the scriptures affirm in Hebrew 11:3, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command. This faith is what guides believers to recognize the Creator's hand in all aspects of life, inviting them into a deeper relation with God. In his Life of Moses, Gregory of Nyssa offers a profound allegorical interpretation of the biblical narrative of Moses, turning it into a metaphor for the soul's spiritual ascent toward God. Gregory takes the historical events of Moses' life with his birth, calling, and journey through the wilderness, and reinterprets them as symbolic stages in the soul's journey toward spiritual reflection. Moses' ascent up Mount Sinai to encounter God becomes an image of the believer's ascent through faith, as they strive to know God more intimately. Gregory highlights that this journey is not linear or static, but is characterized by constant growth, continual striving, and perpetual transformation. The closer the soul comes to God, the more it realizes that God is beyond comprehension, hidden in what Gregory calls divine darkness. Yet this very unknown becomes a powerful form of faith, as the soul learns to trust the mystery of God's infinite nature, always moving from one level of glory to another in an endless progression toward holiness. The connection between creation and the Creator lies at the heart of the human experience of faith. In Gregory of Nyssa's theology, creation is not only the physical world, but also the soul, which is called to return to its Creator. Humanity, made in the image of God, is given the ability and the responsibility to seek communion with the Creator. This is where faith plays a vital role. Through faith, believers are empowered to move beyond the distortions and the limitations of the material world, seeing themselves as participants in a divine narrative that is unfolding within the beyond creation. For Gregory, faith is the guiding force that enables the soul to embark on this sacred journey, It allows believers to transcend the literal understanding of Scripture and creation, opening their hearts to the deeper spiritual realities that govern existence. By depicting the life of Moses as a spiritual roadmap, Gregory invites Christians to see their own lives as an ascent towards God, fueled by faith and grounded in the belief that creation, in all its complexity and beauty, ultimately points back to the Creator. Thus, the experience of faith becomes an experience of creation itself, a realization that the journey to understand creation is ultimately a journey toward union with the Creator. Asceticism in Christian theology refers to a disciplined way of life characterized by self-denial, spiritual practices, and withdrawal from worldly pleasures in order to grow closer to God. In Gregory of Nyssa's theology, asceticism is not an end in itself, but its vital means to achieve spiritual purification and union with the divine. For Gregory, the ascetic life is a response to the inherent struggles of human nature, which is prone to sin and destruction. Through disciplined effort, the soul is gradually freed from the passions, those desires and attachments that hinder spiritual progress, and is made more receptive to divine grace. Gregory emphasized that asceticism is essential because it enables the soul to regain its original purity, which was tarnished by sin. He views human nature as being created in the image of God, but this image gets distorted by the fall. Ascetic practices such as fasting, prayer, and contemplation are designed to restore the soul to its original likeness, preparing it for a deeper relationship with God. In Gregory's vision, asceticism is a transformative process in which the believer sheds earthly attachments and progresses towards spiritual perfection. In the life of Moses, Gregory presents Moses' life as an example of how ascetic practices led to the spiritual purification and alignment with the divine will. Moses' retreat into the wilderness, his fasting on Mount Sinai, and his separation from the worldly concerns all serves all allegories for the ascetic life. Just as Moses withdrew from Egypt, symbolizing the world of sin, ascetics withdraw from the distraction of everyday life to focus on the inner transformation of the soul. Moses' fasting, for example, is more than just abstaining from food. It represents the soul's rejection of physical desires in favor of spiritual nourishment. Gregory emphasized that by controlling the body's appetites, the soul gains mastery over its passion. This purification process is essential for aligning the soul with God's will, as the soul becomes cleaner and more attuned to the divine guidance when it's no longer clouded by worldly attachments. Through these practices, the soul is prepared to encounter God in a more profound way. For Gregory, purification through asceticism is necessary because it cleanses the soul of distractions and impurities, making it a suitable vessel for divine grace. Just as Moses approached the divine in the purity of heart, the ascetic soul becomes capable of perceiving God more clearly through the removal of barriers that prevent spiritual vision. Thus, asceticism is not merely about the renunciation, but about realigning the soul to its true purpose, seeking union with God. Faith, in Gregory's view, plays a dual role in asceticism and is on both its discipline and mystical experience. As a disciple, faith is the driving force behind the believer's committed and ascetic practices. The ascetic life requires immense dedication and perseverance, and it is the faith that sustains this effort. The believer trusts that these sacrifices and struggles will bear spiritual fruit, even then immediate results are not visible. This trust is an act of faith, a belief that God is working within the soul even then when the progress is hidden. Faith is also necessary for the soul to engage in the mystical aspects of the spiritual journey. Gregory teaches that the ultimate goal of asceticism is not just moral improvement, but an encounter with the living God. This encounter is mystical because it transcends human understanding and can only be experienced through faith. Just as Moses entered to the cloud of divine darkness, where God's presence was hidden, the ascetic soul must rely on faith to perceive God in the mystery of obscurity that surrounds divine revelation. Faith opens the soul to the mystical dimensions of this encounter, allowing it to trust in what it cannot fully comprehend. It is this way faith becomes both the foundation of ascetic discipline and the current way to mystical experience. It grounds the believer in the conviction that spiritual growth is possible through self-denial, and it opens the soul to the deeper mysteries of God's presence, which are revealed through contemplation. Central to the Gregory of Nyssa's mystical theology is the practice of theoria, or divine contemplation, which he sees as the highest form of prayer and spiritual activity. Contemplation for Gregory is the inward turning of the soul away from the distractions of the external world and toward the presence of God within. It is in this inward case that the soul begins to perceive the divine, not through sensory experiences or intellectual reasoning, but through a direct and intuitive grasp of God's presence. Gregory, understanding a divine contemplation is deeply connected to the idea of purification. Only a soul that has been purified through asceticism is able to engage in true contemplation. This process requires the believer to empty the mind of distractions and passions, creating space for the divine presence to be perceived. Contemplation is not merely an intellectual exercise. It's a profound spiritual practice that draws the soul into deeper union with God. In the process of contemplation, faith is essential. Gregory emphasized that God is ultimately beyond human understanding, existing in what we call divine darkness. This darkness represents the limits of human knowledge and the infinite nature of God. In the contemplation, the soul does not seek to understand God fully, for what is impossible, but to experience God's presence in the mystery and depth of divine reality. Faith allows the soul to embrace this mystery and to trust that God is present even when he cannot be seen or fully known. Through contemplation, the soul encounters God in a way that surfaces an earthly knowledge, entering into the mystical experience of God's infinite love and grace. This inward turning is not a retreat from the world but a journey into the heart of divine reality, where the soul is transformed and drawn ever closer to God. Gregory insists that this contemplative vision is the ultimate goal of the Christian life, and it is through faith that the soul is able to pursue the vision, even when it's hidden in the depths of mystery. In conclusion, Gregory of Nyssa presents faith in the vital element in both the discipline of asceticism and the mystical experience of contemplation. Faith sustains the believer through the rigors of spiritual discipline, while also opening the soul to the profound mysteries of God, encounter and contemplation. Asceticism, guided by faith, purifies the soul and prepares it for the divine presence, allowing the soul to ascend ever closer to God in a journey that is both transformative and infinite. Gregory of Nyssa, in Life of Moses, provides a rich and profound vision of the Christian life, centered on the transformative power of faith. They presents faith not only as believing of the spiritual journey, but also as the force that subtains, transforms, and leads the soul to ever deeper communion with God. Gregory's teaching on eternal progress, divine eros, and divine darkness offer a dynamic and mystical understanding of faith, one that challenges believers to see their journey with God as a continuous, ever-evolving relationship that culminates in eternal union with the divine. His legacy continues to shape Christian spirituality, emphasizing that faith is both personal and communal, intellectual and experiential, rooted in love and ever reaching toward the infinite ministry of God. As we reflect on Gregory of Nyssa's spiritual insights, it becomes clear that his teachings are not bound by time. They speak powerfully to the modern experience of faith. In a world marked by rapid change, understanding and spiritual fragmentation, Gregory's vision of faith as a dynamic, continuous journey toward God offers a compelling model for contemporary believers. His emphasis on faith as eternal progress resonates deeply with those who feel that faith is not a static state, but an ongoing relationship with the divine. In today's context, many people seek a deeper sense of meaning, purpose, and connection with God amidst the noise of everyday life. Gregory's understanding of faith as fueled by divine eros, the passionate desire for God, reminds us that the pursuit of God is not just an intellectual exercise or a set of rituals. Instead, it's about cultivating a love that grows stronger and more profound with each passing moment. His concept of divine darkness also speaks to modern believers, as many wrestle with doubts, uncertainties, and the limits of human understanding. Gregory challenges us to embrace mystery and trust in God, even when we cannot fully comprehend his ways. In the modern world, Gregory's insights into faith as a transformative force that shapes the entire courses of one's life can guide us toward a more authentic, lived experience of spirituality. His teachings encourage believers to view their faith not as a distant, abstract belief, but an active, ever-deepening force that transforms every aspect of their lives, from relationships to work and from personal growth to community engagement. Just as Gregory depicted Moses' life as a metaphor for the soul's ascent toward God, too can we view our own lives as a spiritual journey. Each one of us, regardless of where we are in our faith, is on a path toward greater union with the divine. Like Moses, we are called to leave behind our Egypt, those things that hold us back, our advantages, fears, and distractions, and set out into the wilderness of spiritual growth. Our faith, like that of Moses, will be tested. We may face difficulties and obstacles along the way, moments where God feels distant or where we are unsure of the path ahead. But it is in these moments that our faith is not needed. Gregory reminds us that the faith is the key to perseverance, allowing us to trust in God's presence and guidance, even when we cannot see the full picture. I invite you to see your life as an ongoing ascent toward God. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to Him. Like Moses on Mount Sinai, there is always a higher peak to reach, a deeper understanding of God's love, and a closer union with His presence. Your journey is unique, but the destination is the same for all of us: communion with God. As you walk this path, let your faith be the driving force that shapes your choice, guides your actions, and transforms your heart. In conclusion, Gregory Nyscher's vision of faith is relevant today as it was in his time. Faith is not one-time decision or a static belief, but a continuous ascent toward God. It's a journey of transformation where the soul is constantly growing, firming, and deepening its relationship with the Creator. Each step, each challenge, and each victory along the way is part of the soul's eternal progress toward divine union. I encourage you to embrace this vision of faith in your one life. See faith as an invitation to growth, an invitation to trust in God's love, and an invitation to pursue Him with passion and devotion. Let faith be the force that guides you through life's uncertainties, that sustains you in times of trial, and that draws you ever closer to the infinite mystery of God's presence. May your journey of faith be one of continuous ascent, where you never cease to seek, never cease to love, and never cease to be transformed by the grace of God. As Gregory teaches us, the path to God is endless, and the joy of pursuing Him is boundless. Let faith lead you forward, step by step, even deeper into the divine mystery and even closer to the heart of God. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Shall we continue with the next speaker?
Exactly, exactly.
All right, okay. So thank you, Professor Panagiotopoulos. We continue with the next speaker, which is Mr. Stratis Panourios, a theater and cinema director. He has participated in a plethora of stage performances across Europe. He is a proficient researcher relating to the training of young directors and theater writers, predominantly focusing on the methods and techniques related to ancient Greek tragedy, Shakespeare, Chekhov, etc., as well as contemporary and Greek drama. His topic for today will be the perpetual transformations of the actor. Mr. Panourios, you have the floor.
Good morning to all. Thank you very much for the invitation. From the beginning, when I got involved with the theater, I felt that the theater was hiding a secret, and since then my direction has been to connect the theater with self-awareness. Η ομιλία μου θα είναι στα ελληνικά. Και ο τίτλος της είναι «Οι αέναες μεταμορφώσεις του ηθοποιού». Ένας ηθοποιός κατά τη διάρκεια της ζωής του, υπηρετώντας την τέχνη της υποκριτικής, μπορεί να μεταμορφωθεί. Ναι.
Παρακαλώ, συνεχίστε.
Ναι. Μπορεί να μεταμορφωθεί σε κάποιον ήρωα δεκάδες φορές, ίσως και εκατοντάδες. Ζώντας μόνο μια ζωή, τη δική του, ενδύεται με άνεση άλλες ζωές, παίζοντας συνεχώς ρόλους διαφορετικούς είτε στο θέατρο, είτε στον κινηματογράφο, είτε στην τηλεόραση, είτε στο ραδιόφωνο. Βιώνει συνεχώς μια αέναη μεταμόρφωση, έχοντας το σώμα του ως όχημα με τα εκφραστικά του μέσα. Το εργαλείο της μεταμόρφωσης είναι ο ίδιος, η φωνή, η σκέψη, τα συναισθήματά του. Αυτή η μεταμόρφωση είναι παράλληλα και μια εξερεύνηση για ολόκληρο το ανθρώπινο γένος. Μέσα από τον ηθοποιό, οι άνθρωποι προβάλλουν τις δικές τους ζωές, τις επιθυμίες, τα ερωτήματά τους, τους έρωτες, τα μίση και μυριάδες άλλα συναισθήματα και σκέψεις. Κάθε ρόλος που παίζει ένας ηθοποιός αντιστοιχεί σε δεκάδες χιλιάδες διαφορετικούς ανθρώπους που ταυτίζονται μαζί του. Γίνεται ο εκπρόσωπός τους, ο αγγελιοφόρος τους, ζει εκείνος αντί αυτόν τις ζωές τους. Οι αέναες μεταμορφώσεις του ηθοποιού τελικά τον οδηγούν σταδιακά σε μία συγγένεια με το αιώνιο, με το αέναο, δημιουργώντας σιγά σιγά μέσα του μια αίσθηση αθανασίας. Και το πιο παράξενο απ' όλα είναι πως για να ενδυθεί όλες αυτές τις διαφορετικές ζωές θα πρέπει να θυσιάσει τη δική του. Ποτέ πια δεν θα μπορέσει να είναι ένας, αλλά όλοι οι άνθρωποι σε όλες τις εποχές. Αν δεν είναι αυτό ένα ψήγμα αθανασίας, τότε τι άλλο μπορεί να είναι? Αρχικά ήταν ο Θέσπης που ξεχώρισε το δράμα από τον διθύραμβο, βάζοντας έναν ιδιαίτερο υποκριτή ανεξάρτητο από την ομάδα των χορευτών, τον κορυφαίο του χορού. Ο κορυφαίος μεταμορφωνόταν σε διάφορους ρόλους, αλλάζοντας μάσκες και κοστούμια, ενώ οι πραγματικοί ρόλοι του δράματος στεκόντουσαν βουβοί. Ο Αισχύλος, ο πατέρας του θεάτρου, πρόσθεσε τον δεύτερο υποκριτή στην αρχαία ελληνική τραγωδία, ιδρύοντας το διάλογο, το παιδί της δημοκρατίας. Ενώ ο Σοφοκλής πρόσθεσε και τρίτο υποκριτή. Ο Ευρυπίδης σταμάτησε εκεί. Δεν τόλμησε να προσθέσει κάποιον ακόμα. Σώζονται μόνο 33 έργα τους ανάμεσα από τα 277 που έγραψαν. Από τα σωζόμενα έργα ο Ευρυπίδης έχει 175 πρόσωπα, ο Σοφοκλής 59 και ο Αισχύλος 44. Οι μεταμορφώσεις του συνολικά αριθμούν σε 278 πρόσωπα. Πρόσωπα θεών, ημίθεων και μυθικών προσώπων. Το υλικό της μεταμόρφωσής τους ήταν ο μύθος, η κυβωτός των συμβόλων και η γλώσσα τους η ποίηση. Μια γλώσσα ειδικά φτιαγμένη για το θέατρο. Ήταν εκείνοι που ίδρυσαν την τέχνη της μετάμορφης του θεάτρου και το αποτέλεσμα της ενέργειας του μεταμορφώνου. Οι μεταβολές των μορφών τους δεν ήταν σωματικές, αλλά εσωτερικές, ψυχικές και πνευματικές. Οι ιδέες που διαχειρίζονταν είχαν τεράστια μεταμορφωτική δύναμη και μετασχηματίζονταν σε συναισθήματα μπροστά στους θεατές. Το θέατρο αφορά τον εσωτερικό μετασχηματισμό του ανθρώπου. Αφορά τον άνθρωπο που δεν βλέπουμε. Τα συναισθήματά του, τις φαντασιώσεις του, τα όνειρα, τις ελπίδες, τους φόβους, τις επιθυμίες, τις αγάπες και τα μίση του. Αφορά τον εσωτερικό κόσμο των σκέψεών του. Όλος ο κόσμος μπορεί να δει την εξωτερική μας μορφή, αλλά μόνο εμείς μπορούμε να γνωρίσουμε τον εαυτό μας. Δεν αντιλαμβανόμαστε πως είμαστε τελικά αόρατοι και ότι ζούμε σε έναν κόσμο αόρατων ανθρώπων. Εκείνοι λοιπόν ίδρυσαν το δράμα του ορατού και του αόρατου. Τα σώματα των ηθοποιών βρίσκονται μέσα στον ορατό κόσμο των τριών διαστάσεων που είναι προσιτές στις αισθήσεις μας, αλλά οι ίδιοι οι ηθοποιοί δεν υπάρχουν στον κόσμο των τριών διαστάσεων. Ανήκουν σε μια υψηλότερη διάσταση του χώρου, εκεί όπου υπάρχει η εσωτερική ζωή του ανθρώπου. Το θέατρο στην πραγματικότητα μας φανερώνει τη συνειδητότητα του ανθρώπου, την ιστορία του, όλα όσα έχει σκεφτεί, κάνει και μισήσει. Οι αένες μεταμορφώσεις του ηθοποιού συμβαίνουν μέσα στην εσωτερική ψυχολογική του χώρα. Τη μια στιγμή σκέφτεται σαν Θεός και την επόμενη στιγμή σκέφτεται σαν άνθρωπος. Ένας μικρός κόσμος που αντανακλά το σύμπαν μέσα του. Ό,τι είναι πραγματικό για αυτόν ανήκει στην αόρατη ζωή του. Οι ηθοποιοί μεταμορφώνουν τον πανικό σε γενναιότητα, τον φόβο σε θάρρος, την οργή σε συγχώρεση, το σφάλμα σε πείρα, το ψέμα σε ειλικρίνεια και το άδικο σε δικαιοσύνη. Αλλάζουν τοπία εντός τους, μετασχηματίζουν τις έννοιες σε σκέψεις και πράξεις, φανερώνοντας συγχρόνως πως ένας άνθρωπος δεν είναι ένας, αλλά πολλοί. Εξαρτάται σε ποιο τοπίο κατοικείς μέσα σου. Η τέχνη της υποκριτικής είναι στην πραγματικότητα η τέχνη της εξερεύνησης του εσωτερικού ανθρώπου. Όταν ο ηθοποιός απομνημονεύει τις λέξεις του κειμένου, τις μετασχηματίζει μέσα του. Οι λέξεις μεταμορφώνονται σε συναισθήματα και ύστερα γίνονται λόγος. Δεν είναι απλώς ένα επάγγελμα η τέχνη αυτή, είναι λειτουργήμα. Ο ηθοποιός όταν παίζει μεταμορφώνεται σε ιερέα για να ψάλει και να αφηγηθεί τις περιπέτειες του πνεύματος και της ψυχής. Τίποτα δεν είναι πιο πολύτιμο από την ψυχή μας, γράφει ο Ευρυπίδης στην Άλκιστη. Και ο Σοφοκλής συμπληρώνει στο έργο του Αίας Δεν συνηθίζω να επενώ μια ψυχή που δύσκολα συγκινείται. Πράγματι, στα έργα τους οι τρεις τραγικοί ποιητές συγκινούν την ψυχή, μεταμορφώνουν τα πάθη σε συγκίνηση. Το συναίσθημα της αρετής για την ψυχή για αυτούς είναι το υπέρτατο αγαθό. Τα θρησκευτικά συναισθήματα, τα συναισθήματα αισθητικής, τα ηθικά συναισθήματα, τα καλλιτεχνικά δημιουργήματα μπορούν να οδηγήσουν τον άνθρωπο στη συνείδηση του εαυτού του. Όταν ο Εσχύλος τους Πέρσες μας λέει με τα λόγια του Δαρίου να ζητάτε την ειδονή που προσφέρει κάθε ημέρα, γιατί ούτε στους νεκρούς σε τίποτα δεν ωφελούν, μας δείχνει το δρόμο του Ευζήν. Αναζητήστε τις ποιότητες στη ζωή και όχι τις ποσότητες, μας λέει. Αναζητήστε μέσα σας εκείνο που δεν πεθαίνει. Αναζητήστε τους θεούς μέσα σας, τις σκέψεις, τα συναισθήματα και τις πράξεις που παράγουν αθανασία. Έστεινουν τραγωδία. Είναι λοιπόν η τραγωδία μίμησης πράξεως σπουδαίας και τελείας, μια μίμηση πράξης που ήταν σπουδαία, μέγεθος εχούσης, η οποία έχει μέγεθος ορισμένο, έτσι που να κατανοεί ο θεατής το έργο, ειδισμένο λόγο, με λόγο γεμάτο ρυθμό και ομορφιά, χωριστά επεξεργασμένο στα διάφορα μέρη της, ανάλογα με τη βαρύτητά τους. Η μίμηση δεν γίνεται με απαγγελία, αλλά με δράση των προσώπων, ανάλογα με την πράξη που μιμούνται, και ολοκληρώνεται προκαλώντας αισθήματα φόβου με το τέλος των πρωταγωνιστών και για το αδήλωτο δικό τους τέλος, φέρνοντας στην επιφάνεια αισθήματα ευσπλαχνίας προς τους ανθρώπους που καταστράφηκαν τελικά από δικά τους λάθη. Έτσι που να οδηγούνται όλα τελικά στην κάθαρση εξαιτίας αυτών των πράξεων. Γίνεται καλύτερος ο άνθρωπος και διώχνει από μέσα του το κακό και φεύγει λυτρωμένος. Αυτός είναι ο πιο ολοκληρωμένος ορισμός της μεταμόρφωσης που παράγει το θέατρο. Και στο τέλος έρχεται η κάθαρση που μας μεταμορφώνει. Ο Εσχύλος, ο Σοφοκλής και ο Ευρυπίδης, εκτός από πολίτες, ήταν και ηθοποιοί. Οι ίδιοι πρώτοι ερμήνευσαν τα κείμενά τους, βίωσαν οι ίδιοι τις αέναες μεταμορφώσεις τους. Και μέσα από τα έργα τους μας παρέδωσαν το κλειδί για να ξεκλειδώσουμε τις ψυχές μας. Και όπως γράφει ο επίσκοπος και νεοπλατωνικός ποιητής Συνέσιος του 4ου αιώνα, ο άνθρωπος δεν είναι κάποιο απλό αντικείμενο, ούτε έχει φτιαχτεί σύμφωνα με ένα καλούπι, αλλά ο Θεός έχει κάνει μια στρατιά ανανεμιγμένων δυνάμεων με ισχυρές φωνές να κατοικούν μέσα στην ιδιοσυστασία ενός μόνο πλάσματος. Είμαστε θαρώ, ένα τερατώδες ζώο που είναι πιο ιδιόμορφο και πιο πολυκέφαλο ακόμη και από την λερναία ύδρα. Γιατί δεν σκεφτόμαστε, δεν επιθυμούμε, δεν νιώθουμε πόνο ή θυμό με το ίδιο μέρος της φύσης μας, ούτε ο φόβος μας πηγάζει από την ίδια πηγή με την απόλαυσή μας. Υπάρχουν πραγματικά όλων των ειδών τα αντίθετα μέσα μας και μια ορισμένη διάμεση της φύσης τα διατρέχει, την οποία την αποκαλούμε νου. Το θέατρο μπορεί να αντιμετωπίσει αυτή τη λερναία ύδρα ενοποιώντας τις αντίθετες δυνάμεις που φωλιάζουν μέσα μας, δημιουργώντας ένα νέο εαυτό αναγεννημένο και μεταμορφωμένο σε αυτόν που τελικά επιθυμούμε και που μας αξίζει να βιώσουμε. Σας ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Panorgos, for your engaging presentation and for contributing such important ideas to our discussion. Finally, we will wrap up with the Metropolitan of Achaia, Dr. Athanasios Chatzopoulos, Church of Greece. He brings a unique perspective on development and timelessness in history, human achievements floating between continuous changes and the vision of perfection, meditation and reality, a pendulum marking boundaries of human existence. His insights on his topic today, metamorphosis, a fascinating experience within and beyond time, will surely enrich our conversation. The Metropolitan of Achaia, Dr. Chatzopoulos, has the floor.
Thank you. Dear participants, metamorphosis, transfiguration, or transformation are three words that are used in similar sense, signifying a notion which covers all aspects of human existence. As such, this notion may fertilize thoughts about different levels of our reality. I shall explain what I mean by giving examples of metamorphoses pertaining to the three levels of human existence: physical, psychological, and spiritual. First, our physical reality is sealed by a perpetual change. The pre-Socratic philosopher Heraclitus is considered the one who coined the saying, "Everything flows." My regular visits to museums give me the opportunity to reflect on this reality of constant change within time. Technology today is a remarkable accelerator of changes with obvious positive and negative effects. Our everyday life, compared with what we know about life, not only in the Neolithic era, but even as recently as the early 20th century, is remarkably different. However, radical technological interventions in our environment seem to be ominous, considering disastrous phenomena like what has recently happened in Valencia or in the Balkans area during the last few years, or in all different parts of the globe. Violent exploitation, mismanagement, criminal acts, and consumption beyond limits counteract serious efforts to come to terms with global warming and climate change. Relating violently with nature will definitely backfire. We are privileged to enjoy a prolonged average life expectancy today due to progress in medicine, but there are serious concerns about declining natural resources, both qualitatively and quantitatively. The French philosopher Michel Serres, in his 1992 book, Le Contrat Naturel, The Natural Contract, which can be enjoyed reading in a brilliant English translation by Elizabeth MacArthur and William Paulson, uploaded to the internet, so accessible to all. So Michel Serres believes that we must now sign a natural contract with the earth to bring balance and reciprocity to our relations with the planet that gives us life. There are also natural transformations which are useful to our existence: the change of seasons in a calendar year, the change of colors in forests in the fall, the varying power of winds, regular rainfalls succeeded by sunny days, have inspired poets and artists throughout centuries, bestowing inspiring monuments of human mind on us. We know how important it is for our life to make sure that every change goes natural. We are also aware that nature is deeply and dangerously affected by unforgivable lack of respect and irresponsible attitudes which are not at all promising to the generations to come. The considerations just mentioned lead us to the second level of our reality, the psychological metamorphosis. What happens around us, whatever pertains to our material existence, is tightly linked to our psychological condition. Suffice to mention the impact of weather conditions, both on body and soul. Caring for the environment and anything material has to go hand in glove with providing viable conditions for psychological sanity and inner balance. The need for psychological care in harmonious preoccupation with our body was the basis of education, paideia, pedia in Greek, since the antiquity. Untamed forces had to be organized in such a way that social cohesion and even survival were not endangered. Anything that is left to chance will eventually go astray. Education was always meant to channel existing forces or skills towards building a sustainable society. Education is never to be left only as the responsibility of schools. Education involves primarily the nucleus of our society, the family. Effective education aims at transforming violent individuals to peacemakers, provocative aggressors to conciliatory personalities, careless sloppiness to patient creativity, impulsive behavior to thoughtful manners, and above all, hatred to love. Difficulties on this matter should never deprive humanity from hopeful efforts to overcome adversities. So often I come across distraught parents looking for points of contact with their children, only to realize that they are unable or even unwilling to express sincere love, which is the presupposition for building bridges of mutual trust and constructive dialogue. In this sense, I do not worry primarily about what my young nieces do, being inquisitive, as I worry about finding enough time to be and spend time with them, listen to them, commenting on a piece of reading, for example, or anything that is of interest to them, establishing considerate relationship, which enlightens the human conscience as a lighthouse directs a ship sailing in rough sea. Whatever we all do in love for transforming the soul of the younger members of our society, we do it for the betterment of our world. These considerations lead us to the third level of the idea of metamorphosis, the spiritual change. I do not intend to speak here about philosophical theories or occult beliefs. What I simply wish to underscore is the long and fascinating spiritual experience of Christian men and women documented in literature and art, inspired by what the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, narrate about Jesus' transfiguration on Mount Tabor. The three apostles, Peter, Jacob, and John, were, in the words of the second letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 16, eyewitnesses of his majesty. They were the first who had that transforming and striking experience. A similar experience is reflected in Apostle Paul's narrative found in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 2. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. I personally have thoroughly enjoyed reading and studying texts about this idea of spiritual change, texts like The Life of Moses by Gregory of Nyssa. Theological comments by the great theologian Maximus the Confessor, 7th century. Or marvelous poems by Simeon the New Theologian, who died in 1022. And other texts, all giving an account of spiritual metamorphosis of saintly lives in Christ. All witnesses of spiritual metamorphosis give us in one way or another an account of a commitment of the faithful to lead a life in Christ within historic time, oriented beyond time towards life eternal, life with no end. This spiritual metamorphosis is not about an illusory wish to escape from the misery of the world, archived in dusty books from the past. It is not a selfish mysticism or an emotional substitute for genuine faith. Still, it is not an aspect of religious aestheticism. Contrariwise, it is the confirmation of faith bridging time with eternity. It is promise of a world beyond our world. Spiritual metamorphosis comes as the appropriation of an announcement which empowers human beings through the centuries to receive favorably what the book of Revelation confides in posterity. The gates of the city toward which we move shall not be shut by day, for there shall be not night there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hatzopoulos. Thank you to all our speakers for their enlightenment presentations. Now we will transition into our Q&A session. I see here we have two questions. It is in Greek. The presentation was in Greek. It is for Mr. Chrysoulakis. So I have to speak in Greek. Κύριε Χρυσουλάκη, η πρώτη ερώτηση απευθύνεται σε εσάς, είναι από την κυρία Λένα Κυροπούλου. Υπάρχει και μία δεύτερη ερώτηση, η οποία είναι συνέχεια της πρώτης, αλλά απευθύνεται στην κυρία Πάλι, η οποία δεν ήταν μέλος του πάνελ μας. Δεν ξέρω αν είναι εδώ η κυρία Πάλι και θα μπορούσε να απαντήσει, αλλά ας ξεκινήσουμε με την πρώτη. Αναφέρει λοιπόν και ρωτάει η κυρία Κυροπούλου, υπό το πρίσμα των εργαλείων της ήπιας ισχύως της πολιτιστικής διπλωματίας, πώς θα μπορούσε να ενεργοποιηθεί η γενικότερη ευαισθητοποίηση του κόσμου, ώστε να ασκηθεί ακόμη μεγαλύτερη πίεση στη νεοεκλεχθήσα κυβέρνηση του Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου για την επιστροφή των γλυπτών του Παρθενώνα. Κύριε Χρυσουλάκη, ο κύριος Χρυσουλάκης.
Δεν είναι παρόν από ό,τι βλέπω.
Δεν είναι παρόν, μάλιστα.
Να κλείσει η κυρία Χρήσου το μικρόφωνο.
Και θα διαβάσω και τη δεύτερη ερώτηση, η οποία απευθύνεται στην κυρία Πάλι, πάλι από την κυρία Κυροπούλου, τη Λένα Κυροπούλου, και αναφέρει, αξιότιμη κυρία Πάλι, από την πλευρά σας και την εμπειρία σας στο χώρο, πώς θα μπορούσε το επιχειρήν να ασκήσει το γόητρο της διπλωματικής του ισχύως για ακόμα πιο ζωντανή εξωστρέφεια, όχι μόνο με την Ευρώπη, αλλά και με τα Βαλκάνια. Και κλείνοντας, απευθύνεται προς όλο τον οργανισμό του Athens Calls Athens, ρωτώντας ποιος θα μπορούσε να είναι ο ρόλος του Athens Calls Athens σε αυτό. Δεν βρίσκεται εδώ ο κ. Χρυσουλάκης να απαντήσει. We have passed our time as well, so I think there is no other question. I can see no other question, so let's stop here. Thank you all for joining us today and for active participation in our discussions. We appreciate the valuable insights shared by our speakers and for thoughtful questions. As we conclude this session, I encourage you to continue the conversation sparked here and to connect with our speakers and fellow attendees. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.